What's going on YouTube? This is Ipsec and we're doing Stratosphere from HackTheBox, which I liked a lot because the user shell followed a real story. It was much like the Equifax hack where they got hacked via struts and then you pillage the database. The catch is the server has a really strict IP tables, so you have to use a forward shell or use the struts exploit to do it without getting a TTY. You could do it that way. I think that's the way most people did it, but the forward shell is just so cool. I love using it and showing it off. So we'll use that method, of course. And the Privesc, it's a little bit short because there's not much to the Privesc. It's just one of those, when you see it, you realize, oh, I could see how that mistake is made. And essentially, it's a Python script that you can execute via sudo. And the Python script has a import statement, and the Python path has the current working directory first. So if you just create a malicious Python module and then sudo execute the script, your code runs. So really short Privesc, but it is cool and I thought pretty unique since I don't think we've had like one of those on HackTheBox before. But anyways, let's jump in. As always, we start off with the nmap with -sc for default scripts, sv, enumerate versions, oa, output all formats, put in the nmap directory and call this Stratosphere, and the IP address, which is 10.10.10.64. Can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we see quite a bit of information. Very first thing we see is port 22 is open, it's SSH, and it's a Debian server. And we can confirm that by it saying Debian and 10 plus deb 9 update 2. The next thing open is HTTP, and it's doing fingerprint strings. It's a 404 request. And I think it's outputting all of this because it doesn't have the server header. We can see HTTP 404, content type, content language, content length, date, connection, then the contents of the web page. I think if it just said server is equal to like Apache IIS or Nginx, we may get less of a verbose output, but because Nmap doesn't know exactly what it is, it outputs everything, so maybe you can identify it. The next one down, we have a 200 request, and we don't have the actual GET. Still don't see a server request, but we have a last modified date of Tuesday, February 27th, and the date on the server as well, which says August, Wednesday 29th. So the server hasn't, this page hasn't been changed in about, I don't know, 6 months or 5 months, so some number of months, and that's just helpful to know. And if you see this like 2016, you know the page just hasn't been updated that much, and if it's a web framework, you may start looking into exploits around that. Scrolling down, we see port 8080 is open, and it's very similar to the port 80, and that looks like it's about it. We get a bunch of fingerprint stuff, probably again because it can't identify exactly what web server it is, so it just outputs everything to maybe decide if you can. I'm just going to check the stratosphere.gnmap, the greppable nmap file, just to make sure I didn't miss any open ports since there was a lot of information on the screen. I see port 22 open, 80 open, and 8080 open. I don't know why that just appeared, so let's go back into exclusive mode and go over to the web page. So I'm going to go into burp, turn intercept on, go into Firefox, go to my Foxy proxy, configure to go to burp suite, then 10.10.10.64. Go back to burp, send this repeater with Control-R, Control-Shift-R to switch to the tab, click go, and just look at the header. It's exactly what we saw, the last modified date, and everything. So let's turn intercept off, see what this looks like. Stratosphere, we protect your credit. Services we offer, about us. If we click get started, site's under construction, looking at the source, nothing there. Started here, same thing. Language, doesn't work. So I'm just going to try a few things like robots.txt, and we get a Apache Tomcat message. And again, it's saying Debian, so we now know this is a Tomcat server. If we go to manager, which is a common Tomcat URL, it prompts for credentials. So we can do like Tomcat manager, and maybe Tomcat secret, admin, admin. Doesn't look like any of the default ones work. Hitting escape, we go to a 401 unauthorized page. So we know this is a Tomcat web server, and that's about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start GoBuster. So see if we can find any other files that are here. We can try to go to /dev. Doesn't do anything. And I'm also going to start up Hydra to try to brute force this Tomcat login. So let's go back to terminal, and we will make a GoBuster tab first. Let's pull up the options with GoBuster-H, and we will see that we want to do -u for URL. So GoBuster-u, HTTP 10.10.10.64. Then we want to do a word list, so user share word list GoBuster, then directory list 2.3 medium, and we'll do -o for out file, and we'll just call this GoBuster.log. While that's running, I forgot, I want to check one other thing. We did /manager on 10.10.10.64. I'm going to try doing port 8080. And if I get the same exact thing, I'm going to assume this is the same exact web server and there's no difference. So I don't have to start two different GoBusters. So we get manager on both of them. So we're just going to live with 80 and ignore port 8080. Right off the bat, GoBuster did find /manager, but let's move on over to Hydra. So we can do Hydra-H to see what we have. And we want to use, let's see, forget exactly what service it is. It's one of the HTTP, so let's see. I want to say it's just HTTP-get, so I'm going to try that. So Hydra-L, we have to create a user file. So let's make a directory, Hydra, go into it, and create users.txt. And we want to specify a few default users. So admin, tomcat, and root. Just saying some default users off the top of my head. No reason I chose that other than it's common things I've seen with Tomcat. So now we can do Hydra-L, users.txt-P, and I'm going to specify user seclist, user share seclist, and passwords. Then let's do dark web top 1,000. I don't like doing any more than like 1,000 requests for a HTTP brute force just because it takes freaking forever. Then let's go back up and look at the options. I'm going to use -F to exit when a login pair is found. So we'll do -F, the IP address, which is 10.10.10.64, then the page, which is /manager. Oh, we never specified the module, so HTTP-get. And that can't be right. I found it way too fast. Let's go and try this. So go to the page, refresh, admin, the password doesn't work. And I'm looking at this, it's manager/HTML, not just /manager. So maybe Hydra doesn't follow redirects because a redirect could mean successful login. So you have to specify the exact page that has the HTTP message, login banner. So if we do /manager, we get a 302 to go to manager/, go to manager/, get another 302 to go to manager/HTML, and this one we get the 401. So this is the page you have to give over to Hydra. So /manager/HTML, and now that's taking much longer, so I believe that's working. Going back over to GoBuster, we have /monitoring, so let's check out that page, and let's turn off intercept. It is /monitoring, and I didn't get rid of this colon, and we get a page with a sign on with username and password, and register. The one thing I note is everything is .action. If we go into intercept on, we see a JSession cookie, so we know, again, this is probably going to be Tomcat because that's common with Tomcat. The weird thing is .action. Normally with Tomcat applications, I see like .do or .java applications is .do, not .action. So first thing I'm going to do is turn intercept off, and we're going to go to Google and search, let's do .action file Java and see what this says. Very first result is Stack Overflow from 2009. And we see it's probably a URL pattern for firing a struts action. And just based upon hearing struts, I know Apache struts, and it's had a lot of vulnerabilities recently. Additionally, the big one was Equifax that did some type of credit monitoring. So we see Stratosphere credit monitoring. So I'm guessing struts is going to be the thing to do. So my next thing is to Google, and I want to find out how to verify what Struts version is running. So I did Google identify Struts version. And once we know what version it is, we'll know what exploits to throw. And let's see, how to find out what Struts version. This looks like it's going to be something locally, not over the web. In the manifest file in meta-inf. Struts config. So this doesn't really say anything how to find out over a web server. It's all locally on the box. We have this blog.qualsys.com, which is a paid exploit scanner, much like Nessus and things like that, but it actually has a lot more exploit capability, kind of like Metasploit, I guess. So we see a bunch of things with the vulnerability. Scrolling down, let's see. Qualsys actually shows how they identify if it's vulnerable. So they're putting something in a content type header, and they're putting just math in a content type header. And then if it responds, we'll see it actually process the math potentially. So that's a common way to identify if you have code execution. Do some type of math. If it processes the math, chances are there is a path to code execution because it executed what you typed. So now let's go back. Let's go to 10.10.10.64/monitoring. We're sending this to Burp already, so let's just go into our history tab, send this to repeater, and then add this header that Qualsys did. And we're getting, that's odd. Go to terminal. I'm going to rename 2. Oh, Hydra finished. I was going to rename it to Hydra, but Hydra didn't find anything. Let's see. That was the wrong clipboard. Control-Shift, insert. And it's processing Unicode. We see this isn't single ticks right there. It's a weird Unicode one because it's slightly slanted. So let's just replace that manually. Get rid of that. And replace all these with single quotes. And let's get rid of the Qualsys thing because we want you to subscribe to this video, or at least I want to. And that may work. Click go. And we see the header got put up and it responds with a number. We could change this to be something like 191 times 7 to see if this is actually doing math. It looks like it is. And now we get leap back. So definitely have something here. So let's go back to that Qualsys page. And let's grab this CVE number and search for an exploit. So CVE Python GitHub. And we get this exploit. So let's git clone this to download the exploit and play with it. So git clone, struts pwn, and you can just try executing it to see what it says. -H for help. So we're going to check a single URL. So http 10.10.10.64/monitoring. And that should be fine, right? Let's give it all the way to welcome.action. Just to be sure we got it. And then -C, let's do ID. And we see it's running as tomcat 8, so it looks good. We can do a different thing, so uname-a. Probably put this in quotes because we have a space. And we definitely have the uname output. It says the host name here, Stratosphere, and it's running Debian. So we have code execution. Let's get a reverse shell. So let's just go to the reverse shell cheat sheet by Pentester Monkey, or Pentest Monkey. And I'm going to try this bash one first because I believe this works on Debian. So paste that in. Do 10.10.14, 13 I think is my IP. If config ton 0. Yep. And instead of 8080, let's do port 9001 because we like Flare. And listen on port 9001. Go. And we don't get anything back. So I'm going to try, let's do a port we can normally get out on, 443. Change this to be 443. Click go. Still don't get anything. So let's just try curl https 10.10.14 13 curl not found wget. Still not getting anything. So it looks like there is some firewall potentially. Let us try a witch nc to see if netcat's on this. It is. So we can do nc-u for UDP, 10.10.14 13. We'll do 53 for DNS. nc lvnp lvnup. So we listen on UDP 53. Do this. And we don't have anything. So it doesn't look like the firewall is letting us out. The last thing I'm going to do is if config not found IP-ADDR. There we go. And we can get, let's see. I don't see a IPv6 address. Is it like IP-6 ADDR? IP6 could be completely disabled. Because one common thing is IPv6 is left out. So let's do if config ton 0, and we can listen on IPv6. So ncat-6 lvnp 443, and then we can do wget https, and then we put the IP in brackets. I'm not sure if we do -6 on wget. We'll do it anyways. And nope, we don't have any way to get a reverse shell on this box, but we do have command execution. So let's do ls-la on temp, see if we're in some type of sandbox. 10.10.10 64 welcome. Did we crash the box? Or did the box go down? Uname-a. Huh. That is odd. VPN looks up. Ping 10.10.10.64. Box is no longer responding, so maybe it got rebooted in middle of all this. So I'm going to pause the video and we're going to see exactly what happened, but there is a firewall that is preventing it from talking out, so we're going to have to do some magic. Let's just clean up a terminal pane before I pause the video. Okay, the box is back online, so we can ping it, And we can also do the last command we tried to do, which was uname-a. Not exactly sure what was going on. Every now and then boxes go down. That's HackTheBox life. But let's do exactly what we did as we noticed the box was offline, and that was IPv6, because firewalls often leave a hole in IPv6. It just gets forgotten about. So NC LVNP 443. We probably should have done a if config ton0 to get our IPv6 address. IF config. Our IPv6 is deadbeef2. And just because I'm not positive on the IPv6 syntax, we're just going to verify it locally with wget-6. And we have to specify it in brackets because colons are used for ports and also IPv6 separators. Okay, so we know a listener works. We know a wget command is correct. Let's go back to struts pwn and paste this in. And we don't get a shell. So now we're getting more and more confident that there is a firewall and we're going to have to work around it. And the easiest way to do that is through a technique I did in SOCAR. And I write the script in that video and explain it. We're going to pull that script and walk through it and then modify it to do struts. But essentially, you do a web shell 100% through HTTP requests. So you never get a callback because we can't get a callback because of the firewall. So let's make a directory called struts pwn forward shell, and we'll grab that. One in the wrong directory. So I'm going to go into vulnhub, SOCAR, and I'm going to copy web shell. And just like in the SOCAR video, I'm not going to be posting the source to the script, mainly because there's a lot of learning experience you get when you debug Python scripts, because typing this all out without making an error is pretty tough. So you'll learn a lot if you just try to type this out. It's a little bit different than the one in SOCAR because I accidentally deleted that and then got one from a friend named 0xdf on HackTheBox, and he made a few modifications to make it a bit cleaner. I made some modifications to it again to make it a little bit cleaner and add comments. And maybe when I add other features I want, I'll upload it somewhere. But for now, start copying it down. I'm going to hit page down. It ended with while true result. Okay, so copy the next set and then go to the very end. And we're going to walk through this because this one is shell shock. So we have to put the struts exploit here and do that. And we'll also explain exactly how it works. The heart of this exploit is this named pipe command. And to step through it without actually running Python, we'll do this quickly. And again, go to SOCAR if you want a better explanation. If we go to explainshell.com, we can try this to see if this can explain it. Name pipes. Doesn't explain it too well. So let's open a new tab, vim test, paste this in, and go through it. So rm/tempf, it's just cleaning up if it already exists, so that's kind of irrelevant. The MKFIFO, like make file in, file out, that is a named pipe. It's just going to make this possible. It creates a special file. The very first thing we have is cat/tempf, piped it to bin sh. So, wrong one. If we do like echo who am I to f, and then cat f and pipe it to bash, it executes the command. So all this is doing is reading tempf and piping it over to bash to be executed. Then this is going to direct standard error, which is 2, into standard out, which is 1. And then it's going to send that to netcat, and this netcat connecting to an IP on a port. And then the standard in from netcat is going to tempf. So this kind of creates a circular loop of reading tempf, executing a file, sending it to netcat, netcat listening, and writing back to tempf. So what the forward shell does is removes this netcat and just puts like temp out. So when you write contents into /temp-o, it's going to then execute it into bash, and when you write contents into temp-f, it's going to execute it and send it to temp-o. That's essentially what the forward shell technique is. So let's go through this thing. We have a few modules. Base64, we use that because we base64 all the commands we run. It just works around the potential of having like bad characters that we'd have to URL encode or do weird things with. Random, it's going to help us generate sessions so we don't step on ourselves when we create multiple shells on the same box. Request, because, well, doing HTTP requests. Threading, this one's a bit odd because we're just writing contents into a file, then reading another file to get output back. So since the program's never giving us output, we have to set something up in the background to constantly read that file and constantly display output. So that's what threading does. Time, this is just so we can do sleep commands, I believe. So we set up the class web shell, and we have the initialization where it actually sets up the shell. And then it's setting up like the session. So input.random variable is going to be where we send commands to, and we're going to read from output.random number to get commands back. Now, this is actually going to make that name pipe that we had explained. Then we're going to set up the thread so we can run it in the background. And that's all it does for initialization. Next thing is we have to have a command to constantly read standard out, which is going to be that dev shm output.session. And then it's going to do that by running a command. That running command is just going to be the cat command. Then it's going to run a second command to clear the standard out file. So the next time we read that file, it's empty. And that way we just don't have to remember where we left off in the file. This next function is going to be the actual one that runs commands. And this is shell shock because that's what Circar was. And there we go, putting the shell shock in the user agent of the payload. We have another one called write command, and this one's just going to do the base64 wrapping of the command before we send it to run raw command. Then upgrade shell, this is going to be a just shortcut so we can do the PTY trick to get a real shell. Prompt, please subscribe. This is just going to say enter your command here, essentially. And then we do an infinite loop. So that is the script. Let us go and copy the relevant code from the struts exploit, paste it in the script, and then try it out. Open a new console and go to struts pwn. View this. Search for payload, and this is the struts exploit. So just copy all this. Control C. Go back. And get rid of this payload. And if I have to do set paste. Paste it in. And then add the spaces. And so I don't have to do this every time. I'm going to do Q to start a macro, then hit A. Hit I to go in insert mode, space 3 times, go down, hit home, escape to get out of insert mode, Q to get out of macro mode, and now I can just do @A, and it does that for me. Press my cursor to the next line. So I could also do 10 @A, and do 10 lines at a time, then 3 @A to do 3 lines. So we have the struts exploit, and our command is labeled the same thing, so we don't even have to modify anything. The one thing we will need to do is change the exploit. I think it was a content type. If we look here, it is content-type. So if we do content type, payload, and we have to set the user agent to something. So user agent will be you all rock, and should be good. Normally things don't work on the first time, so we'll find out what mistake we made. But we're going to run our web shell with Python 3. Type a command like ls, and burp isn't working. Oh, we didn't do URL. And it's going to 10.10.10.56, which doesn't exist. So, forgot to set one thing, which was this to be 64. And the struts exploit was, what was it? /monitoring /example welcome.action, maybe? I believe that's it. ls. And there we go. So now we have a nice little web shell where we can do commands. And most importantly, we can like go in directories. So we can go into conf, look at the contents, and let's look at web.xml, see what this is. It doesn't look too interesting. Let's look at tomcat users.xml. We get a username and password, team pwner, and this weird password. So we're going to copy this. And I hit Control C, which killed my shell. Awesome. But copy this. And the main thing I'm going to try to do is get into the database. And I'm making that my very first task because if we just go based upon history, the Equifax hack, which this box seems to be built around since it's a credit monitoring box, they exported the database. So I'm going to go based upon the story and say the first thing I want to do after exploiting struts is find a way into the database. Oddly enough, this doesn't let me log into Tomcat. Username. So maybe they have some ACL where only like the local host is authorized. I'm not exactly sure where that is configured in Tomcat. But go back into our web shell, see what else we have. If we go to, let's do file stir. I'm curious what db connect is. ASCII text, cat db connect. And we have database information. So SSN, maybe like social security numbers. So let's try to connect to that. MySQL-H for host, localhost -u SSN_admin I think -- password equals. If we just do -p, it's going to ask us for the password. And it didn't. Oh, we have to upgrade to a TTY. So I'm going to do upgrade, which is going to run that python-c import pty.spawn bin bash. We may have killed our shell with that MySQL command. Let's see. Do we have a shell? Let's try this. Oddly enough, I'm not getting any output. I'm used to seeing some type of output. It's weird. Let's start the server. Upgrade right off the bat. And there we go. That's what I'm used to seeing. This thing, like what you'd see when you have a terminal window. So let's run this MySQL command again. And I see my password's near the top of the line, so let's just copy that right now. Paste this, enter the password, and now we're in the database. So we can do show databases, see what we have access to. Use SSN, show tables, and it's all empty. So let's get out of this and try the MySQL as admin. So there were 2 credentials in this dbconnect file: social security number and users. So MySQL-H localhost -u admin-p admin show databases use users show tables describe accounts to see what fields are there, and then we can just do select star from accounts. The reason why I normally do describe first is sometimes the tables have so many columns it gets hard to read, so I just describe it to see if I just want to select username, password, or select everything. So we have the account Richard and this as a password. So we can try this again. So let's go back to this, Richard, put this in, still nothing. So let's exit this. Cat etc passwd. We see that Richard is a user. So I'm just going to do su-richard, paste that password, and we have a shell on here. We also have test.py in his directory, so I'm going to look at that. But before I do that, let us just SSH to it. Because if you remember from the recon, SSH was allowed. So 10.10.10.64 is Richard, and we're in and actually have a real shell. So we can close out of this. Exit one more time. And then we can remove dev shm to clean our tracks. That's fine. Exit. So now we have the shell. We have the user.txt, wc user.txt. We could run the Linux priv checker, but I'm curious what this test.py is. It's owned by root, and only root can write to it. Richard can execute it and read it, so let's take a look. So it's a Python 3 program. It's going to import hashlib, ask us a bunch of questions, and then at the end it's going to return root success.py. So we can try cheating and just copying all the questions. So if we go to hashes.org, we could have maybe even Googled it. But whenever I search hashes, I use this website. Paste it in, type the CAPTCHA, submit, and it wasn't. Oh, that's weird. We have a /n. I wonder how that got there. Copy just the hash. Paste this in. BZK4JPW. And we can see the very first one is Kaibu. So if we wanted to, we could go down the chain and execute this. It's actually Python 3, test.py, and do all of these. But it's going to take a little bit to do all those. This one is a relatively long hash, and hashes.org doesn't have it. So if we want to, we can just search around for the very last one, because it probably goes up in difficulty. So let's start from the end, go up, and see if this finds anything. Doesn't get anything. And if we search it on Google, we have one pastebin thing, hash killer trying to crack it, but no data. And it's going to execute /root/success.py. The Python programs don't do set UID. Python will strip that out. Only compiled languages do that. And even if it had set UID, well, Python isn't running with test.py doesn't have the set UID bit. So nothing we can do there. However, it's executing something in root somehow. If we do sudo-l, we can see that Richard may run user bin python and that script. So if we do sudo python and then test.py, it says no password. I wonder if we have to specify the whole string. There we go. So now we can run this as root, and Python is a bit weird. So if we look at how Python loads libraries, it actually loads them from the current directory first. So I think if we do python 3-c import sys print, is it sys.path? There we go. So we can see Python's path, and this is the order it loads those import statements. So it's going to go to current working directory first, then it's go to userlib python 35 zip, userlib python 35 python. But since it's going to current working directory first, and we look at test.py, and it's just hashlib here, we could just create the hashlib.py, and then let's try import os, and I think it's os.system bin bash. So now when we run or import command for, when we run import hashlib, it's now going to search for hashlib.py in current working directory, and this time it's going to find a file and execute it. So if we do that sudo command, that's not that. That's our path. Sudo python home richard test.py, and it switches us to the root. And if we go to root's directory, we don't see secret.py, so even if we had got all that correct, nothing would happen because that Python doesn't exist. And we can do wc-c root.txt, see it's 33 characters, and that is the box. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you all next time.